I was proud of the team. I thought they played free and aggressive, and opening weekend, oftentimes that's what you're really fighting. It's just making sure that all the work and the preparation that the kids have put in shows up on the field, and that they're loose. Baseball's a skill sport. And so oftentimes that opening weekend with young guys, they put a lot of pressure on themselves and try to overperform and do more than what their training has taught them. And so I thought for the most part, we played free and aggressive, which was encouraging to see.
Um, Kevin, go ahead.
Hey, good morning, Coach.
Morning.
I know it's early in getting reactions or whatever, but I would think you had to be pleased with your pitching staff outing. Not a ton of walks, maybe a little bit of control things, but good starting things, and maybe the emergence of a closer. Were those some of the goals you were trying to get an idea of early on?
Yeah, before the series started, you kind of play. We got 4 games to cover. How are we going to do that? What are these innings going to look like? And so I predicted on the first weekend, if you had an excellent weekend, your starters would be able to go 4 innings. And I think Kern went 5.2, Van Kimpen went 4, and Robbie Porco went 3.2. So probably over exceeded expectations as far as first time out, being able to control the game. Each one of those guys left with the lead. So if your starter can exit the game with the lead, you certainly give yourself a position to win the ball game. And then the bullpen was excellent. They gave up 3 runs over the course of 3 games. And so early in the season, you start looking at some box scores from across the country, and there's guys that scored 36 runs and 20 runs and 19 runs. That there was a lot of offense opening weekend. And so our bullpen did an excellent job. Reese Bassinger, we didn't know he was going to close that first game. He got the final 2 outs on 1 pitch. And so Jack Cartzona certainly could have finished that game potentially. He was in the position to do so. But Bassinger, man, he was good. He is so confident. And when he stands on the mound, it kind of oozes experience and freedom and having fun. And so he certainly having the ball late in the game was a wonderful feeling with him on the mound.
And then Monday, was that going to be a starter or was that going to be a bullpen day?
Yeah, we were going to start David Hagan, who's a freshman from Moeller High School, and Tyler Hudson, who's a senior transfer portal player. Both were deserving of that start for sure. We actually wanted to get the freshman's feet wet in a little bit more of a familiar role. We had built him up as a starter, and so we said, let's start him. We thought it may had evolved and maybe into like that opener role where you end up going one time through the lineup, handing the ball off to a Tyler Hudson, a veteran player, and seeing how long he can go, similar to what we did in game 2 with Carson Estridge, where we gave the ball to Estridge. And I think he had our longest outing, no, second longest outing in the weekend. He went 4.2 innings in relief. So kind of that long close or long relief kind of situation. But I would be crazy not to mention Carson Estridge. He went 4.23 hits, no runs. He was excellent.
Camden, we'll go to you.
Good morning, Coach. How you doing?
Morning, Camden.
Some just two quick questions for you here. Suave came into the year with some lofty expectations, and so far after the first series of the year, he's already tailed in 3 RBIs on 4 hits. How big is that to have a guy like that, like Logan, open up to such a hot start?
Oh, it was so cool. And early in the year, sometimes these guys put pressure on themselves, especially in their draft year expectations. It happens all the time. And so the coolest part was my first game as a head coach. Logan's got a ton of hype. We open up on the road, and the first pitch of the game, I don't know if you saw, Logan blast a ball, had to be 104-mile-an-hour line drive to left field. And it was kind of like, all right, the Mountaineers have arrived. So that was just such a cool moment for that kid, and everyone's juiced up, hyped up, ready to go. Younger players usually play a little too aggressive, maybe too crazy, or a little too tight. And Logan just he landed on a 92-mile-an-hour fastball from a pitcher that he's never seen throw a pitch and just absolutely crushed it. And so he caught great. We gave him a chance to get off his legs in game 2 of the doubleheader, and he DH'd, and that's a role he hadn't done a ton since freshman year. So hopefully we took care of him enough so the bat will always play. That's the goal. Catching is such a demanding position. You're squatting hundreds of times a day. You're in tune with every pitch. You're blocking. You just get worn out. You're a human punching bag. And so trying to protect that guy so he can continue to perform. But it was a great start for him, and I was excited for him.
And just one more question. Talk about impressive hitting. Skylar King opened up with 600 batting average. Can you talk a little bit about improvements from year to year in his career here?
Yeah, that's the definition of Skylar King. He's just gotten better. Our program's always been built on development. It's been on built on getting great athletes with awesome work ethics and letting them improve over the course of their career. His biggest adjustment, he's got a really nice swing. He loves to play. He loves to work. His biggest adjustment by far has been his approach. So he's really started to figure out the game mentally and what his mind needs to be thinking so his body can execute at a high level. One of the most impressive swings that he had this weekend was a 2-strike changeup. It was down and away. And so it's a slower pitch going away from him. And he hit a triple to left center. And he almost golfed the pitch that was really slow. He kept his bat in the zone a really long time and burnt the center fielder because balls opposite field on that low flight of a trajectory rarely happen. And it was kind of one of those anomaly things where it's like you have to be in such a good place physically and mentally to be able to hit a ball like that. And he crushed it. He carried our team. Game 2 of the doubleheader, we don't win unless he comes up with a big home run. That was a fun swing. The pitch before, the kids in the dugout would call that a sword because he swung and missed at a breaking ball so terribly and looked like an idiot and was able to basically flush that swing completely, which was probably the worst swing of the series from anybody. And the very next pitch, they threw him the same pitch, and he hit a homer to right field. So it almost looked like a setup job by Skylar. Like, I'll let him think that I can't hit the breaking ball coming into me, and basically single-handedly won that game for us. But played huge, was awesome, played really good defense. Got thrown out twice on the bases, and there was a chance with video replay, which Jacksonville didn't have, that potentially he was safe on all 3 steal attempts. But yeah, was really proud of his development and what he brought to the table this weekend.
Greg, go ahead.
Yeah. Coach, obviously the results were what you were looking for, but is there more value in having 2 of those 3 games feature a lot of tight spots late, whether it be for relievers or, situational at bats and spots like that?
Yeah, that's a fact. Sometimes it's almost the ideal scenario, right? Because every game is so important, but unless you get in some of those nut cutter games, you don't utilize your bench as much. You don't find out who performs in these moments, which you have to do early in the year. And so we won one game by 2 runs and won another game by a single-digit run. And so in those games, it doesn't matter how you slice it. One mental mistake or a few physical mistakes or a lack of focus, the Mountaineers could have been 1-2. That's how close baseball games work. And so the fact that we were in those situations and executed at a high enough level to end up getting the win is kind of the ideal situation for the team, because it's super obvious to the kids that doesn't matter any opponent that you play, that you can get beat unless you play very clean baseball. You have good starting pitching. You are competitive out of the bullpen. In game 1, which I think we ended up winning by 2 runs, 4-2, that was probably our best game, really. We truly outperformed Jacksonville in game 1. We out-hit them, I think, by 10 hits. We probably had 4 or 5 stolen bases. We had excellent starting pitching from Griffin Kern, who went 5.2 innings with 5 punchies. and gave up one hit over 5 points. So he threw a one hitter through 5.1. We had 0 errors. And then in the ninth inning, they had the winning run, or at minimum, the tying run come to the plate. So kind of the message to the team was just, that's how good you have to play to win college baseball games at this level. And so I think your question is wonderful, and just that allows for growth. Those kind of games allow for growth, and it forces some of the younger guys to grow up fast. And some of them performed well, but also performed average, but not poor enough to cost us the game. So it's like a learning lesson without costing the team the game, which is a good thing.
Hertz, you want to go? Oh, Bob.
Me?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, Steve, this is Bob Herzl. Uh, you talked about how cool it was with Logan and that he got off to a good start like that, and how the emotions that he had to have been having and the likes. How about yourself? This is your first game managing the team. What's going through your mind? How long did it take you to get comfortable with it? When was the last time you managed a game that counted? Just what was that all like for you?
It was a ton of fun. It's exhausting mentally. It's very exciting in the game. I guess the best way to describe it is like when you're doing something that you really love, the time passes really quickly, kind of like a flow state situation where there's nothing else going on. You're completely 100% concentrated on every pitch, on every play, on the decisions, on the next pitches, on running the offense. And so it's borderline meditation in game. And then as soon as the game's over, you feel like you got hit by a train and you need to hydrate and eat and go to bed kind of feeling. So it's what I definitely love to do. I think the last time I coached, maybe made all the decisions in a meaningful game, was when Coach Mazey had to tend to Weston Mazey when he had his head injury and was at a hospital down south. And so I forget when that was, but a few of the staff members were giving me hell because they made a big deal out of it, that it was Coach Sabins' first win as a head coach. And they're like, you can save all that bullshit, Sabes. You won 2 games against Kansas when we were coaching in a Big 12 series. So they were giving me a hard time. But I think the most impressive thing from the weekend was just the staff, because there was a lot of people that had different roles. So for example, Coach Oni, he called pitches for the first time in a Division I competition in his career. And so that's hard to do. You want to talk about being concentrated, calling every single pitch, pick, first and third defense, and run defense electronically to the catcher, the pitcher, and the rest of the team on every single pitch while it's on a time clock. So you have to make hundreds of decisions a game and make sure that those decisions line up with scouting reports based on the hitter's weaknesses, the base runner's ability to steal, and also our pitcher's strengths. And so you can practice all you want, but until you get into that competition piece, that's a difficult job to have. So Coach Oni did incredible. Chris Riley, who's our director of pitching, he really helps think through options in the bullpen for me. So he kind of he dummies down options essentially for me. So before the games, we talk about pitchers and who we think would be good in situations and spots and matchups for the opposing team, lefties versus righties versus high ride fastballs versus sinkers, sliders, changeups, who we trust, who we don't, who handles moments better than others. And then when those moments arrive that you try to cover before the game, which you can never cover all the options in a baseball game, we start to get those pitchers hot. And so basically he starts to limit a larger buffet selection into 2 or 3 entrees that could be an option for certain situations in the game. So he did a wonderful job and communicates at an incredibly high level. Jed Jerko was awesome. He was essentially a bench coach if it was in the big leagues, but just brings an awesome presence, helps with our guys approach wise. We did a double switch in game 3. We moved our DH, Logan Save, to catch. We lost the catcher, and the hitter was now, I'm sorry, the pitcher was now in the lineup. And so if we would have scored enough runs, we probably would have seen Reese Bassinger get an at bat in the 3rd game there. So I had never done that in a game, so I had an idea of what was going on. But I walked over to Jed, who's been in baseball for a long time, and was like, "Hey, does this look right? I'm not screwing this deal up before we submit it, right?" So he was awesome. Our hitters were prepared at an insane level. It's so difficult to prepare offensively when you have snow. You can't play games. You don't have hitters' eyes. You're trapped in cages and indoors. Jimmy Rasinger killed it in the preparation of our hitters. Jacob Garcia was nails with base running and bunting. He's also our recruiting coordinator, so we had enough talent to compete. Nathaniel Rory, Drew Hefner, just so for me, the staff was really the highlight for me. Like you talk about my first experience as a head coach. Well, if you feel like you're on an island and you're making every decision on yourself by yourself, and you don't trust your counterparts, it's a much tougher spot to be in. So the staff was incredible, and so I got a little long-winded there, but incredibly appreciative for those guys and what they bring to the table.
Mike, go ahead.
Hey Steve, how's it going?
How you doing, Mike?
I'm great, thank you. Just you kind of covered a lot there, so I don't want to repeat too much, but I guess this small thing, how many lineups did you draw up for your first game?
Well, you guys are really on it. I think that is a legitimate question because we are deep on the position player side. We had 3 different 3-hole hitters over 3 games. So if you would see that traditionally, you'd say like, I don't know if this guy is playing to win. Is he really playing the best 9 on a daily basis? And I really believed that we were. And so there's some ebbs and flows, and you have to see who can perform early in the season. But we had Kyle West, returning left-handed hitter, hitting the 3-hole day 1. Alex Merritt, redshirt freshman, who has made massive jumps offensively in game 2. And Gavin Kelly, freshman catcher, hitting the 3-hole game 3. So we just had a lot of different lineups. I think game 1 featured 7 left-handed hitters, and game 2 featured 3 left-handed hitters, 6 right-handed hitters, and that was because of matchups. The game 2 starter, Blake Barquin, for them was 70, 80 points worse against right-handed hitting, and we exposed that. And we had guys like Jace Reinhart, who hadn't played as a Mountaineer yet, hit a double. We had a lot of guys get opportunities from the right side of the plate, and so I felt comfortable. I think that the lineup and the roster starts to shake itself out over the course of time. You never have too many players. That's a running joke on the staff, right? It's like, man, we just have too many good pitchers or too many good hitters, because we do like a lot of them. It's just not going to be the fact, because unless you win the national championship, you think you needed a different piece or more pieces or more talent or something different. But I think right now we legitimately have 14 to 16 position players that deserve and have performed at a high level leading into the spring, and you only get to play 9 of those suckers. So it was tough writing lineups.
And then when you go in this first weekend, the first couple of weekends, there's probably a balance you want to strike here about how much of what you're putting, whether it's your lineup or your rotation, is how you want it to look or how you think it'll look by the time you get to conference play, and then how much of it is you need to see whether this idea, this player can or cannot function as you envision.
Both of those things. When you've dealt with the 18 to the 22-year-olds long enough, you just start to recognize the talent floors and the ceilings a little bit more clearly. And so there are some people that have higher talent ceilings that aren't ready right now, maturity wise, aren't ready physically, don't handle moments well, don't know how to prepare correctly, don't take care of their bodies on a consistent basis. And so some of those guys, whether it's offensively, defensively, or pitching, have smaller roles than what their talent would suggest. But over the course of 56 games, you hope that they figure it out and they click in some certain areas and they make those jumps. It happens every year. It absolutely will help happen this year. But you want to start early in the year, probably with some higher floor guys in general, because they're going to handle moments, they're going to throw strikes, they're going to field ground balls and throw accurately across the diamond. And so you hope some of the talent guys like make some big jumps. And then obviously we have some very high talent guys that are also mature and playing at a high level. That's the best case scenario. But I think you're just balancing all of those things, Mike.
Thanks.
Justin, we'll go to you for the final question.
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
Good. Congratulations on your series there.
Thank you.
Hey, so obviously, like last year, Derek Clark became a big name for you guys, and obviously, a lot of it was because of his story coming from the D2 and obviously performing well D1. Griffin Kern obviously is trying to maybe kind of follow along those lines. Lightning doesn't always strike twice. Did you see enough there from Griffin in the first outing to say, okay, hey, maybe we got something here again with the guy that came from D2, or do you need to see more from him?
Yeah, he ultimate trust. I mean, to get a guy that hasn't been in your program and to have him show up and take the mound and the ball for the first time of a new season, a season that we're excited about and that we believe that we'll be competitive in, and say, this guy gets the ball, he's going to represent this state and this university for the first pitch of our program. We have 96 people, student managers, trainers, staff, and players. I absolutely believe that. If I didn't, there's zero chance that he would have the ball in that scenario. That being said, yeah, there's a hell of a lot more to prove. He's got 5 innings under his belt on a team that's not in our conference. So there's so much more to prove. He has to continue to get better. All those things are true, but ultimate trust in a guy. When you start a season and there's so many people invested in what we do and how we do it and how we perform, and you want to make sure that person is a solid person in general, character wise, handles his business. The trust has to be off the charts, and so that's what Griffin Kern is a high character, high trust, high talent player.
Just out of curiosity, I mean, obviously with what Derek did last year, Kyle West obviously came D2, and you've had some other people over the years. I mean, with the way you guys have recruited D2 guys, scouted D2 guys, do you think you have a corner on the market or something to that effect? I mean, I imagine other schools, look at D2 guys, but I'm sure a lot of other major schools probably don't.
Yeah.
I mean, your thoughts are on that whole angle of recruiting.
I'm very proud of that. I think in general, if you want to have an elite talent here, you have to buy low, sell high, find markets that aren't tapped, go places others aren't willing to go, research different. If we pretend that West Virginia is the same institution as everybody else trying to compete for national titles, we will finish second more times than not. So I think that's been our philosophy over the last decade. It's just like there's no stone unturned, whether it's D2, D3, Division III junior college, Puerto Rico, Canada. We have to work harder and find players in different ways. And the best players often do want to come here. It doesn't matter. You could be a Team USA superstar, gold medalist, potential first rounder, and you should want to choose West Virginia. We just don't limit ourselves too much because it's a smaller population state that's a little bit further northeast, and a lot of baseball players haven't accidentally swung by our campus or played here when it comes to the national scene of recruiting. And so more of that is that we're working to make sure that we don't miss hidden gems at West Virginia.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep.
Thanks everyone for joining. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.